Hi everyone, I'm Shauna Hooks, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the creation of the contractor pay request and the application for payment. So this training is actually for our agency and higher education users, as well as our school district contractor staff. Again, my name is Shauna Hooks, and I am the IT Operations Support Manager. I also have Matthew Weber here, and he is our training lead, and he'll be providing us some assistance today with any audio issues that we may have and any questions that you all may have. Before we get started today, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. This presentation is being recorded and will be posted to our website along with all of our other job aids and training material. If you could, please keep your microphones muted and cameras off. However, I do see that we have a fairly small group today. So this really is going to be a sort of casual conversation. More of a show and tell, I would say, than a full out training presentation. But again, if you could keep your microphones muted and your cameras off until we start taking questions. But if you have a question, please go ahead and throw that in the chat and we'll get going. Also, if there's anything that I'm showing or anything that you would like to see that I haven't shown you, please feel free to jump in and ask for me to take a look at that for you. So today we'll talk a little bit about creating your certified payrolls or your prevailing wage report, depending on whether you're in the K12 system or the agency higher ed project. We'll talk about creating your contractor pay request / application for payment. We'll review your schedule of value, and we'll talk a little bit about adding line items, handling stored material, attaching documents, and adding comments. I'm going to go ahead and turn that camera off. So let's talk first about certified payrolls and the prevailing wage, since that's the precursor to getting that pay request created. This is mandatory for general contracting for all K12 and agency higher ed projects. And you're going to create one certified payroll record or prevailing wage record per pay request that you plan to submit. So the first thing you're going to do is log into OCI, and you're going to navigate to your project tab. Once you're within your project, you can see here that I've actually logged into my project or into my building that I'm working in. On the left-hand side of my screen, I'm going to go down to logs. I'm going to then find either certified payroll or prevailing wage, depending on what project I'm working in, and I'm going to click my create button. Once I've clicked that create button, I'm going to get a new form, and I'm going to just fill the basic information out. Down here, I'm going to see contract name. I'm going to click that select button, and it's going to pull up my current contract schedule of value. I'm going to click it, and I'm going to click select. That will populate my contract into my certified payroll or prevailing wage record. Next thing I'm going to do is add a status, and the status should stay in the pending status until you're ready to complete the record. So if you have some additional documentation that you need to add to it later on, you simply want to keep it in pending status and click save, and then reopen it and finish it up. But once you change the status to complete, that locks the record down, and then you won't have the ability to update it at a later time. So for now, I'm going to put my record in the pending status. I'm going to provide my pay request period start and my pay request period end dates. Next thing I'm going to do is scroll down and fill out some basic information. Me as the prime contractor, did I work this period? Am I submitting any payroll this period? And then the period of time that I worked for this during this pay request. And then if this is all the work was performed only by me, just contractor, I'm going to check this box and indicate confirmed. If I did have subcontractors that provided work for me, I'm going to go ahead and click that next tab over. So previously we were in the general tab. Now I'm going to click on that subcontractor details tab, and I want to start adding my subcontractors information. So I'm going to click that add button. And what you'll notice is once you click that add button, a little secondary area is going to pop up over here for you to your right. So you're not going to get that secondary screen that you used to get in that old view. You're actually going to click add and you're going to see that information populate to the right. Once you click add, you're going to add your line item details. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click that little select button and I'm going to find my subcontractor. Once I've selected my subcontractor, they're going to populate in there for me. And then I'm going to provide some basic information. Did I utilize them this period? Am I providing payroll for them? Their period start and to date, start and end date, and the short description of the work that they provided. If I'm only completing one sub, I only have one sub for this pay period, I'm going to simply click save. If I have additional subs, I'm going to click save and add new, and I'll repeat this process until I've added all of my subs. So this is a little bit different than your old view, you may notice. Now, once I've added all of my subcontractors, I'm ready to add any associated documentation I need to add to each of them. So for my Joe general contractor, I'm now ready to add any additional documents that need to be associated with my Joe general contractor. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click save at the top of my screen. That's going to be really important. Once I've clicked save at the bottom of my screen, I'm going to select Joe, and I'm going to now have the opportunity to add attachments. So I'm going to click the attachments tab. Once I click the attachments tab, I'm going to have this little paperclip button sitting there for me. I can click that arrow down, and if I am an agency higher ed user, I'm going to click Document Manager so that I can pull in all the documents that I previously uploaded to Document Manager for this associated subcontractor. If I'm in a K12 project, I'm simply going to click the Browse button, and this will take me back to my desktop to pull in any associated documentation I have for this particular subcontractor. Do we have any questions so far? Okay, great. And you'll see here, and this again will be posted to our website. You'll see here that we've got documentation associated with this for how to upload the document manager and additional information on attaching documents to this record. Okay, so once we've attached the documents to the prevailing wage to the subcontractor, and you can see here, here's the subcontractor. I'm in that attachment option. I can now see that there's a paperclip sitting next to attachments, letting me know that the attachment has been successfully attached. And I can also see the attachment sitting down here. I can now go back to my general tab and attach any additional documentation. So if me as a prime contractor, if I have additional documentation I need to attach for myself, I can now do that. I can go up here to attachments, I can click this paperclip and attach any additional documentation I want to right here to the certified payroll or prevailing wage report. If I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and change my status from pending to complete. And I'm going to click the submit button. And by clicking the submit button, it simply saves my record under logs. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about contractor pay request or the application for payment. But I want to pause just for a second to give you a chance to ask any questions that you may have so far. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. And I do have a question here about, will we be talking about how we can how we can see where we stand in the approval process after we submit our pay application through OCI, I definitely can talk about that. Just write a note for myself. Okay, so now we're ready to create the pay request for this pay period. So the first thing I'm going to do is log into OCI, and I'm going to find my project. The quickest way to find your project would be to click the little plus sign next to the last tab that you have. So you may not have any tabs at the top of your screen when you first log into OCI, and if not, you'll definitely see a plus sign. And if you click that plus sign, you're going to get a search bar. You can just start typing the name of the project or typing the number of the project that you want to find, and then you'll get a list of all the projects that are kind of closely matched to that project name that you currently have access to. And you would just double click on that project in order to get into it. So now we're going to navigate again. And again, there's very small differences between doing an agency higher ed pay request and completing a K12 pay request. So I'm in my project now. I'm going to go to logs, and I'm going to go to contractor pay request if I'm agency higher ed, or I'm going to go to applications for payment if I am in a building project for the school district. Next thing I'm going to do is click my create button. Now I can see that very first screen. This is the form that I'm going to see when I first click that create button. And we're going to start filling out this form. And in order to find the lower part of the form, you can simply scroll down in order to scroll through the form's information. Now, don't simply pay attention to wherever you see asterisks. You actually want to fill in whatever information you have available to you. So not simply asterisk information. Anywhere that you see is open for detailed information, go ahead and provide the information that you have available to you. So the first thing we're going to do is title this. And for the title, I would recommend that you plug in there somewhere the pay request number you're on. This will help you find the pay request at a later time. So here it says title and it says applications for payment. I would actually plug in there maybe your company name, PR1, PR2, PR3, just some way, or CPR1, some way to know which pay request you're working on. The next thing you're going to do is come down to the contract reference area. And this is where you're going to populate your contract into this pay request. So you're going to click this little select tab here, and you'll get a secondary screen. Now within this secondary screen, you should only see your contract SOV sitting there. You're going to click on your contract SOV, and you're going to click select, and that will populate your contract into this record. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to come down to your certified payroll. And they're all pretty much the same. So over here on the left-hand side of my screen for K12, you can see I've scrolled down the page. I've come down to certified payroll. Click that select button, and I'm going to choose my most recent certified payroll record that I've created. In sample B, you can see that I've scrolled down my page. I've come down to prevailing wage. I've clicked the select button, and I've chose my most recent prevailing wage report that I created. Once I've highlighted those reports, I'm going to click the select button, and that will populate my certified payroll into my pay request record. The next thing we're going to do is populate my period from date and my period to date for the pay request. And you want to make sure that your period from and your period to dates on the pay request match the period from and the period to on the prevailing wage. The next thing we're going to do is plug in our previous pay request. This is a really important piece of information here. So if this is your initial pay request, go ahead and click yes. But if this is not your initial pay request, click no. And then the system is going to have you plug in your previous pay request. So your most recent previous pay request. If you don't do this, your current earned for the period will be completely messed up. You'll have some serious issues with this pay request. So you won't get an error message. You could possibly get paid for this, and it will be a serious overpayment. So you want to ensure that if this is not your first pay request, that you identify this is not your initial pay request, and you pull in that previous pay request. Once you've clicked that select button, you'll see a list of all of your previous pay requests, and that's where that title comes in handy that I was talking about earlier. So if I don't provide a really good title, it's hard for me to tell which pay request was my most recent. So, but if I have PR2 or PR3, I know, oh, okay, this is my most recent pay request. I can highlight it, select it, and then I'm going to populate that into this record. The next thing I want to do is find out my commits remaining balance. So this is a good way to get an idea of where you are currently with your SOB. So the first thing you can do is if you come up to the upper right-hand corner of your screen to that little hamburger, you click that arrow down and you can click that SOB button. When you click that button, you're going to get this secondary screen that will pop up for you. And you can scroll over just a little bit and you can see that scheduled value and you can see your commits remaining balance. So this will tell you how much money you currently have left on your schedule of value. And if you've got concerns or questions, you can always follow up with your project coordinator or project manager to find out if there's any issues going on there. You'll also be able to see if you have any approved change orders. Those change order lines will show up here as well. One thing you can do if you can't see all of the fields that you're looking for when you want to take a look at your SOB is you can click that split button at the top of your screen. And that split button will allow you to sort of keep looking at that first area, everything beyond that bar to the left. And then I can go over here to the bar on the right and I can scroll over to see all of those columns that I want to take a look at. Another thing you can do rather than scrolling through the columns is you can actually click the export button. And the export button will provide you an Excel spreadsheet of your current schedule of value. So you can just sort of export it and it'll give you a list of all your reference lines and your commits remaining balance. Have any questions so far about this? These instructions will be available. They are currently already posted at our website, and I can show you where all those training documents are. And this recorded session will also be posted to our website. So now that we have taken a look at our SOB, we know what our commits remaining balance is, we can now start adding line items to the pay requests. So I was previously in that general tab. Now I want to go into that pay request details tab and I want to click the add button. Once I click the add button, I'm going to get this secondary screen that's going to pop up for me. And so if you have any issues seeing everything that you want to see on that secondary screen, one thing you can do is the same thing we did previously, is you can actually sort of lock the columns. So if you come in here and you click lock after this column, it'll actually lock that column for you, and you'll have the ability to scroll back and forth without losing your place, without losing your short descriptions or your WBS codes. So you'll know exactly which row you're looking at. So once you're ready to start adding information so you can get paid, what you want to do is come into your short description for the line. You're going to type in a short description, and then you're going to plug in a % complete. So for every short description, you should have a % complete. And one thing you want to make sure is if this is a labor line, that you're plugging your % complete into the labor column. Same thing with material. If it's a material line, you've got to make sure you're plugging that % complete into the material column, or you're going to have issues coming down the road with your SOB. And I just got a message from, I think, Sylvia, if you want to, I'll look in the chat for DRC's project titles for when they create pay requests. And so
it's not just DRC, it's all agency side.
Okay, thank you.
That was just an example, sorry.
Okay, great. So if you want to take a look at Sylvia Slivo's comment in the chat, she's sort of showing how project coordinators would like to see their titles. Now that is, again, we've got agency higher ed in here, and we've got school district staff in here. So you kind of want to check in with your project coordinator or project manager to see what they would like to see. But in general, that's what Sylvia is sharing with you.
Hey, Shauna, can you just also add about what Steve said yesterday in regards to this line item and saving compared to saving the task and saving the line items? Can you mention that too?
I'm not sure what you mean.
So this picture that you're in where it says save on the far right-hand side, they have to hit save in this picture, in this field, because if they click out of that window, it will not save anything that they did.
Right, yeah, we'll get to that part.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, sure. So you want to make sure you plug in your short description, and you want to make sure you plug in your percent complete. And the big thing here is, again, just making sure that your columns align with the type of WBS code you're using, whether it's a labor code or a materials code. Once you've plugged in your percents complete, another thing you want to do is check your earned this period. And if you find that you've got a negative line on your earned this period, you definitely want to recheck that. So one thing you'll find here with my error message, the reason why I received an error message is because I indicated that I installed some material that I didn't previously store. So we'll talk a little bit about handling stored material. So we have a pay request scenario here. My company has a line on our SOB for worth $400,000 in material. And you can see here in my SOB that I've got a $400,000 line. Now I've purchased and installed $200,000 worth of light switches, and I'm ready to add that to my pay request. So I purchased it and I installed it all at the same time. So we can see here that I've, on my line item, I've got a $400,000 line, and I'm simply going to come in here and say, in the materials complete area, 50% complete. So I'm not going to do any storage of material. I'm not going to mess with my stored at all because I purchased it and I installed it. So for my percent materials complete, I'm just going to have 50%. And I'll click save. Now, I'm now ready to submit payment for my next pay request. So I should have on this payment earned $200,000 on that 50% complete line. And I'm going to submit that pay request. And I'm not going to go word for word in here. I'm going to get back to our other training, but I at least want to show you a little glimpse of how this works. So now it's time for my February billing, and I've purchased and stored on site the other $200,000 worth of light switches. So I've purchased them and I've stored them. So now what we can see is I'm coming down to my light switches line. I can see from my previous pay request, I had a 50% complete. And I'm now storing $200,000. And I'm not doing anything else with this line, but simply storing $200,000 on this line. So I'm going to enter a short description here. I'm going to come over to the stored area, stored on site this period, and I'm going to plug in $200,000. We can see here that the system will allow payment for 92% of that stored material. And I've scrolled all the way over. I can see my payment allowed percentage, and I can see my material payment allowed. And this is just walking you through making sure that you check those line items and submit them. So now it's time for my March billing. And I've now installed the other $200,000 worth of material that I stored in February. So I'm going to identify that line again. I'm going to now change the percent complete to 100%. So if I'm installing material and I update that I've installed material, my percent complete must reflect that. So I'm doing both the same time. And this is one complication that I see that some people may get confused on, is that maybe they'll, install the material, but not realize that they also need to increase that materials complete percentage also. So you can see here that I've installed the material, and I've also updated my materials complete percentage to 100%. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to submit it. And you can see here that I should have earned $16,000 on that material line. Any question about material? And again, this document is embedded in this training. And Matt, if a question comes along that I happen to miss, just holler out to me, okay?
Will do.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next slide. The next thing I'm going to do is, once I've added all the information, I've added my short descriptions, I've added my percent complete, the next thing I'm going to do is click Save on my record. Now, you may experience an error message after you've clicked that Save button. And in my example here, you can see that I was missing a short description, so I got an error message. So whenever you get that little red X next to one of your line items, you want to simply left click on it. So click on that error message and it'll show you, or click on that X button and it'll show you the error message. So take some time and read that error message. And so for this one, it's telling me that I'm missing a short description. On this one, it's telling me that I've overspent my line. So you just want to recheck that line that it's giving you the error message on and update it. Okay, so once you've saved the lower form, the next thing you want to do is take a look at the earned this period. So down here in my earned this period on my pay application, I can see what I've earned. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the top of my screen and I'm going to click that General tab. So I was previously in my Payment Request Details tab. I now want to go to my General tab and I'm going to scroll down to Current Earned. And I want to make sure that my current earned matches my earned this period from my other tab. If they do not match, then you want to give a call to the OCI support desk for assistance. Now, if you've got some additional documentation to attach, and again, most of your attachments should have already been attached to your prevailing wage. So you really shouldn't have much of anything to attach to the pay request document itself. But if you're asked to attach some additional documentation to the pay request, we have instructions for you, again, on how to attach documents to the pay request. And we can also see here that once we have that attachment, we've got that little paper clip, and we can also see the attachment down there in the body. Now, if you would like to add comments to the pay request, what you want to do is right next to the Attachments tab is the Comments tab. You want to go ahead and click on that, add your comments, ensure that this hide button is not checked. So the hide button should not be checked. And if it is, you want to make sure you uncheck it. And then you're going to click the Post button. Now, if this record comes back to you for update, the first thing you want to look for is a little comments bubble sitting over here to the right. of the Comments tab. So if for some reason the project coordinator or project manager or someone sends this back to you for return for clarification, what you want to do is take a look at this comments bubble, and it should tell you what your issues are. Any questions? Okay, so the next thing you want to do is send your record to the next step in the workflow. And again, if you go to click send and you get an error message, you just want to go back to slide 39 to review how to handle error messages. But we're going to go ahead and click that send button. And the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get a secondary screen that's going to pop up that's going to ask you for your workflow action. So you notice that's a big difference between how it previously functioned and how it functions currently. So previously you would choose your workflow action first. Now you're going to choose your workflow action second after you've selected send. So the workflow action should automatically be populated to submit, and your to box should also already be populated. If you would like to carbon copy additional users, you can come down to this carbon copy box and you can start either typing their name to pull them in there, or click the select button to select who you would like to carbon copy on this pay request. And then the next thing you're going to do is click the send button. So I had a question about checking out the workflow. So I am going to go into OCI, and I can see that I've got a couple of pending records sitting here. So if you've got a pay request that you've submitted and you're wondering, okay, who's got it, who's working on it, what's going on with that pay request, the first thing you want to do is come over to your logs, log into the project, go to logs, come down to the record type that you're looking for, double click on that record, it's running a little slow. Let's try it again here. Okay, here we go. So it does look a little bit different than it used to, right? It's not, before you could kind of open it up and you could see information right in the body. And now what you actually have to do is come up here to the right-hand side of the screen and click that arrow over to workflow progress. And if you click workflow progress, and this one is probably a bad one to look at because we've got so many people on this record. Yeah.
I think you're just sharing the main screen for OCI, not the.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, let me redo this here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to back it up just a little bit here. So I'm going to double click on the record. Okay, can everyone see this okay? So I can see here, and again, this is a bad one just because there's so many people in this workflow. But if you click workflow progress, you're going to be able to see who's got it, who's previously had it. And if you go to the top of workflow progress, you can see what current step it's on. So here's our current step, and this is who previously had the record and when they had it. And I'll take a look at another one just to make sure that no matter what step it's on, I'm going to get the same view. So again, I'm coming over here to the right-hand side of the record. I'm scrolling over. I'm going to click Workflow Progress. I can see here what step it's on. And I can see down here who's got it at previous steps. So not just the role, but the person. So I can see when it was created, when it went to AE review, OA review, review and validation, PM review, and district approval for this particular K12 training project. Do I have any other questions? Okay, so let me go ahead and show you our website and where these trainings are located. So I'm going to go to ofcc.ohio.gov. And I'm going to click on the OCI tab. And when I hover over the OCI tab, it breaks down for me into agency higher ed training and K12 training and consultant list training. And so if I click on, let's say agency higher ed,
Shauna,
yes.
Back in that last screen, it talked about a pay period, and it looked like it was just one day. So, do you want just one day, or do you want?
Oh no, not at all. Not at all.
No, not at all. That was covered.
That was actually a really bad sample. It should have been from, you know, if it's one pay period, it would be October 1st through October 30th, or however your pay cycles run. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thanks for that question. So right now I am in our agency higher ed training documents. And if I click on agency higher ed user specific, and K12 is set up very similar to this, I can come down to contractor and then create contractor pay request and prevailing wage report. And this document here will walk you through the same thing we're walking you through, but we'll also have this one posted there as well. So once we finish recording this, we'll have this particular training recording here and this additional training documentation posted here. And the same way with K12, they'll have the same setup. You'll also notice that all of the new information that we come out with is also located under our OCI News. So once you're into whatever platform you want to take a look at and you go to the left-hand side of your screen, if you click on OCI News, it'll be all of our announcements are out there and also all of these trainings. So they're going to be in two spots. They'll be located in the OCI News and they'll be located in your user-specific area. Any other questions? And we will continue to provide these trainings. Our goal is to have at least one weekly, at least for the time being, and it'll be very user specific. But the goal is to sort of rebuild our training recording library, that we previously had prior to the upgrade. So right now we do have all of those training docs out there, but we don't have many training recordings. And so we will be utilizing these to rebuild that training recording library. Okay, well, thank you all for your time today. If there are no more questions, that's the end of our training. Please feel free to reach out to us. To Matthew. You can respond to the email notifications that you've received from him. If you have any trainings that you haven't been made aware of that you would like to see, if you have any additional questions about the trainings that we've provided, or if you've gotten out here to our website and you've taken a look at some of these job aids and if you feel like you're missing something or you feel like it's not as clear as you need it to be, please let us know and we will follow up with you. Okay, well, thank you all so much for attending and have a great day.
Thanks.